Hi guys, this is Kelly Lanavola here with a new video for Spellbinders. Today I'm going to be making a Valentine's Day card with a couple of different dies and stamps. First of all, the Be Any Sweeter stamp set just totally stole my heart. I thought it was totally adorable. It's got the stamps and the dies that come with it. It was just such a clean look, and I really loved that. I'm also using the Prim Hearts and there's 3 hearts in this Love Notes die set that I'm also going to be using. I love the font. Like, that's what totally drew me into this stamp set, was the font right out the gate. I'm like, can I convince Tammy to come to my house and teach me how to write like this? Because that would be amazing. In order to start my card off, I just have a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock, and I traced the outline of the cling stamp because I wanted to make sure I was going to have enough on my background. I'm using Salty Ocean Distress Oxide, and you'll see every time I kind of ink up that foam tool, I'm rubbing it off on my craft mat, and that's because I'm not coming in from the sides. I'm starting in the center, and I want to make sure that I have nice, smooth, even coverage. I also used a very, very light hand. I am just sprinkling on, I'm using a number 2 round brush from the Silver Brush Company, and I'm just sprinkling on some clean, clear water. This is to get that oxide ink to the oxidation, and just add some interest to the background. I knew it was going to kind of be a simpler card. That's typically my style. And then the other thing, if you watch my own channel, you know I'm totally in love with Perfect Pearls. It's Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearl, and I'm just going to add some water to that. It sets with water. That's how Perfect Pearls work. So it's not going to come off or go anywhere, and it gives the most beautiful shine in the background. This is not watercolor paper, so I'm using minimal moisture. I'm going to go in and just use a paper towel. I call it clean, but I use this one for everything. I'm not even kidding. And just blot that up. It's not going to take up any of the shimmer. It's just going to take up the moisture to make sure that I don't have any areas on my card that are just get kind of gross because of that moisture, because it isn't a watercolor paper. I used the medium Prim Heart. I just love that word, prim. It's so cute. I cut that out again of Nina Solar White, and then I'm adding some color to that with Abandoned Coral and Candied Apple. This did not work out as well as I had hoped it would. There wasn't enough of a difference. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have went with Fired Brick or Aged Mahogany to get more of a pop of color there on the bottom, but it is what it is. I mean, it turned out fine. So now we're going to start with the stamping. We're going to be stamping a lot, this image multiple times. I'm using Intense Black ink from Simon Says Stamp because I am going to be doing some Copic coloring, and I'm going to stamp it down one time because I want to color the bee and die cut it out separately. So that's what this one is going to be. So on my own channel, which I just thought it would be a good time to, I don't know, kind of have that conversation. Somebody had asked me, Teddy had asked me if I would do like a bio. I don't really know what that means. I guess just to tell you about myself. So, which is going to be hard because I'm also going to have to tell you about this card. You will, if you're watching not on my channel and on the Spellbinders channel, you will learn very quickly that I hop back and forth between story time and card making. I'm a little bit of like squirrel. So here I stamped it down on my background paper. The reason I stamped it down on my background paper first is because I didn't want there to be any breaks in the sentiment. So now I'm gluing down the heart, and then I'm going to stamp it again. And this will make sure that it's just completely fluid. Everything flows together. One of the great joys of the Misty is being able to stamp something in the same exact spot multiple times, which is what I'm doing here. So I can stamp the sentiment down and then stamp right on top of that again, and it will just have no breaks and be totally fluid, and I love that. We're going to start on the Copic coloring now, which is that font. I told you, loved that font. And I'm going to fill in the, like the open areas with a color gradient. So I'm going to go in with my lightest color, and then the mid-tone about halfway up, and then the darkest just at the bottom. The reason... So the heart I would have done differently. I would have done this before I adhered the heart. The reason that is because it kind of made me a little bit nervous with possibly the Copic's bleeding. So if you're going to do this at home or something similar to it, maybe color the letters first. Anywho, bio. I don't even know what to tell you about myself. So basically I'm married. I have a little 4-year-old. You'll frequently hear me refer to him as my Peanut. I also have a doggie. She's a Boxer Mastiff mix that was a rescue. Her name is Molly, and I am her favorite person in the world. And I just love her endlessly. We won the dog lottery when we got her because she's so good with my son. I have been creating probably my whole life. I taught myself how to cross stitch when I was like 15. Then I moved into scrapbooking when I was in high school. From scrapbooking kind of came card making. I've been card making for about, how long has it been now? 8 years, probably 8 years. I've only had like shared those things on the internet or on my blog for about 7. I started that right about the time that I got married, and everything is still out there, like from my Flickr channel to my very first blog post, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I firmly believe that everybody started somewhere, and it would not benefit you any for me to pretend like I'm perfect, because I am not perfect, and I make mistakes, and I leave all of my errors in my videos because I want to teach you how to fix them or how I fix them. So back to the card. So I did the wings. I just added a little bit of shading with the lighter blues, and now I'm going to start coloring this bee. I love this little bee. He is so adorable, and I wanted him to be like a little golden honeybee. So I'm going in with a fairly bright yellow to YO2, but I'm going to add some shading so that he starts to look a little bit more gold. For a light source, I guess I'm working with what you would call a center light source, which means your shading is going to be on either side of your object. Really what I'm trying to do is just get some roundness and some depth with my bee. So I went in with a YO8 and added shading to the left and right sides. And then for my darkest color, I'm using a YR24. Some of you might be going, Kelly, that's pretty brown. And it is, but don't worry, it'll get better. I go back over them with the next color. Typically, I work from lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. That's how I get the best blend. It isn't necessary. That's just what works for me. I used an R20 to add some blush to his cheeks, and then I'm going to go in to do his little black stripes. Interesting thing about black, you don't have to color it solid black for something to look black. So my lightest color is actually going to be a C5, which is a cool gray kind of mid-tone, and I'm going to fill the entire stripe in with that. If you wanted it to look shiny, we would leave white in the center, but I don't want my bee to look shiny. I want him to just look, you know, golden and happy. I probably could have even made him look a little bit fuzzy, but I didn't do that. Anyway, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm using a C9 to blend out the edges. So to add some depth to the edges, I'm going to leave a pretty large portion gray in the middle there. And then for his little stinger, I'm really being very, very careful, just using the tip of my marker to add shading underneath his little tushy and then on either side of his stinger. For the black, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just adding that, depth on the sides. Right now it looks a little bit funny, but don't worry, in the end it'll look like black with a highlight. So blending back out with that C9 and then filling in everything with the C5 once more just to get a really good blend. And you can see how that lighter section plays off the yellow section that is lighter and gives a really nice highlight right down the center of his body. If you've never watched my videos before, then you probably don't know, but believe me, you will. I like to add detail with a white gel pen. I just think that it's something fun that you can add. So I added some dots to his little wings, and then I also added some little dots to the side of just the yellow parts of his body, just to give him a little bit of interest, makes him a little bit more whimsical. I just thought it was super cute. The other thing I always like to do is I love me a bold black outline. I do. I think it makes the colors pop. I go back in and re-outline everything. I typically do it with an EK Success writing pen. You can also use microns or Copic multiliners. I tend to lean towards things that are more Copic safe, but that's just in case I need to make any adjustments afterward. Here, I started scribbling on some color and then realized my R35 was in desperate need of refilling. So I'm going in and just, this is the white piece of paper that I cut the little prim heart out of. And so rather than let it go to waste, I am using it to do some further die cutting. Just scribbling down this color. Doesn't matter if it blends well at all, because by the end of it, you won't even be able to see that. So just trust me. That's another thing I'm going to tell you a lot usually when we're doing videos, is that just trust me. It'll be fine in the end. Promises, promises. So anyway, card making. So I started that when I got married. I didn't really share on the internet until after I started my blog. I've only been doing YouTube for about, well, I guess this will 2 years-ish. I started in 2016, but it was the end of 2016. And that was basically after Jennifer McGuire just, it's so funny to say that, nagged me to death to start doing videos. So here we are. I used my Platinum. It's the smaller version, which I love because it makes it so much easier to get onto camera to show you what I'm actually die cutting. I die cut several of those little hearts out. I also die cut, there's a separate die cut in there in the Be Any Sweeter set for just the wings. So I cut that out of vellum, and then I'm adding color to the back of the vellum. You want to make sure you're putting it on the back because it does kind of get a little bit sticky. The alcohol ink gets a little bit sticky. And so I put down some darker color more toward the center, and then I'm just blending that out with the B quadruple 0 because I tried not going all the way to the edges and it just looked funny. Here's another trust me moment. Don't panic. We're cutting the wings off this bee. We're cutting the wings off this bee because that vellum piece, which is what I want to be sticking up, has a section on the back to go behind the bee. But I still want these wings to be seen because otherwise you're just going to see that red heart through it and it's going to look awfully strange. So I'm using Tombow Mono multi-glue and gluing these down, and then I'm going to glue the vellum to the back of the bee. I don't really, for a living, this is not, I mean, I do make cards, and that's something that I love to do. It's kind of my de-stressor. I was a, well, I still am, it's only part-time, but I was a 911 police fire EMS dispatcher for, I've been in the game a minute. It's been about, well, this will be my 15th year, 14th year? 14th year. And so I started doing that when I was 20. Side note, make sure you don't try to bend your little bee wings until after that glue's dry or it'll pop off and you got to do the placement all over again. PPS. And so the city that I worked for went to a regional center. I ended up leaving and going to dispatch for the state for a while. And then they called me and asked me if I would come back and do case management in the detective bureau. So that is currently what I do for a full-time job. I also dispatch part-time because honestly, that's just where my heart was. Where my heart was with helping people and feeling like I was making a difference. And even though case management is very interesting because it's kind of like the prosecution part of it, it did not make me feel like I was helping people. It didn't make me feel like I was helping to make the world a better place. So I do dispatch part-time and then also card make. So here we're going to start placing those little hearts. And this is, again, just to kind of bolster up that feeling of this being a Valentine, which I just love. I'm totally feeling Valentines this year. I don't really know. I think maybe it's because I finally get to make my son's Valentines for school. Like, it's the first time he's in school and I can actually make Valentines. So I'm just really embracing this holiday. For the two larger hearts, I pop them up on foam tape. And for the smaller ones, I just glued them down flat. I'm going to add some clear Winkostella to both versions of the bee wings and then also to his black stripes because I love clear Winkostella on darker colors. It just looks amazing. And then the other thing I'm going to do to add some shimmer is I'm going to use Stardust stickles. I know the stickles have been around forever. They're kind of old school. I don't even care because the shimmer from a Stardust stickle makes me smile, makes me so happy. So at first I was like, is it going to be too much glitter? It's not. There's never enough glitter. I was thinking like a crazy person. So this is why that blending for the Copic markers doesn't matter as much because we put the glitter over top of it and then it totally kind of like smooths everything out. So that is the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you next month for the next feature video. Bye.